Welcome back.
Well, according to the Filipino officials, the Philippines have banned a senior Chinese diplomat from meetings for alleged rude behavior in the latest fallout from a feud over the potentially oil-rich Spratly archipelago group of archipelago. Officials of the Department of Foreign Affairs said Chinese Embassy First Secretary Li Yongshan, who heads the mission's political section, raised his voice as a Filipino official last month while discussing Philippine allegations of Chinese intrusions in Manila-claimed areas of the Spratlys. A memorandum from the DFA's Asian and Pacific Affairs Office said that Li exhibited conduct unbecoming of a diplomat and that his embassy had been informed that he would not be allowed to attend future meetings at the department. Foreign Secretary Albert Del Rosario had been informed about the incident, according to the memo, which was seen by the Associated Press. The memorandum did not provide details of what happened in the meeting, but at least 3 senior Filipino diplomats said Li raised his voice in an offensive manner during a discussion of Manila's claims that Chinese forces had intruded into Philippine territorial waters in and near the Spratlys. The diplomats spoke on condition of anonymity because they lacked authority to talk to reporters. Sought for comment, Raul Hernandez, the DFA's new spokesperson, quoted Foreign Secretary Del Rosario as saying, "The story has no constructive value, and as such, we will not comment." In another hand, Ethan Y. Sun, spokesperson of the Chinese embassy in Makati City, said in a text message, "You will get feedback as soon as I get it." The Spratlys, a chain of barren, largely uninhabited islands, reefs and banks in the South China Sea, called West Philippine Sea by the Filipinos, are claimed in their entirety by China, Taiwan, and Vietnam, and in part by the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. They're believed to be rich in oil and natural gases and straddle a BCC lane. Manila has accused Chinese vessels of intruding at least 9 times into the Philippine waters in recent months. Well, about a dozen protesters burned 2 Chinese flags near the U.S. Embassy in Manila on Monday. In Vietnam, dozens of people held protests for a 5th straight week in Hanoi, waving Vietnamese flags and chanting anti-Chinese slogans. Well, meanwhile, Defense Secretary Voltaire Gazmin said that in the latest report for an intrusion into Philippine-claimed waters, an unidentified fighter plane buzzed just 6 meters over the antenna of a boat carrying Filipino fishermen near the Spratlys. Navy Chief Vice Admiral Alexander Pama said that the fishermen reported the jet flew low over their boat early last month off the Investigator Northeast Shoal. He said that the jet couldn't be identified. The fishermen described it as noisy and it made them nervous. Pama confirmed that the jet was definitely not from the Philippines. It was the second report of foreign aircraft's activity in Philippine-claimed areas of the South China Sea this year. In May, 2 Philippine Air Force turboprop planes on patrol near the Spratly reported 2 unidentified jets streaking high above them. While the experts speaking at an international conference in Manila did not expect current tensions to lead the conflict, well, they said they could be accidents because of increased activity by claimants to assert jurisdiction over the Spratlys. Carly Thea of Australia's University of New South Wales told Reuters that the situation is urgent now because if left unaddressed, it could lead to skirmishes in the sea. He said China and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, have to agree on a rules-based regime with obligation and enforcement mechanisms and include non-claimant states in the treaty. The situation needs a code on how countries, including the United States, Australia, and Japan, should behave as Southeast Asian states.
In a related development, China will hold a discussion on the letting SEC probe mainland firms for the first time. According to 2 Chinese officials, say that U.S. and Chinese officials will meet next week to discuss giving American securities regulators the right to investigate companies within China for the first time. Officials say representatives from the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board will meet with counterparts from the China Securities Regulatory Commissions in Beijing from July 11th to 12th. A joint delegations from the SEC and PCAOB will share technical and practical information regarding audit, inspection, and cross-border oversight that they hope and expect should facilitate the achievement of the meaningful inspection procedure for Chinese audit firms going forward, said Conlin Brennan, a PCAOB spokesman. As Conlin declined to discuss the timing of any meeting, John Nestor, an SEC spokesman, declined to comment. China Biotics Incorporated and Heli Electronics Corporations are amongst dozens of companies traded in the U.S. that have disclosed auditor resignations or accounting irregularities this year, leading to the suspension or delisting of their shares. Some of the SEC's previous investigations of such companies have been stalled by the inability to gather information in China. One of the officials said regulators in the Asian nations haven't felt pressure to immediately address oversight of companies publicly traded in the U.S. because they weren't responsible for approving the listing.
Europe's debt crisis and signs of a slowdown in global growth are complicating Malaysia's decisions on interest rates as a pickup in inflation coincides with dimming prospects for export gains. Bank Negara Malaysia will raise its benchmark overnight policy rate to 3.25% from 3% at its fourth meeting of the year, according to 10 of 15 economists surveyed by Bloomberg News. The rest expect no change. The central bank will release its policy decision at 6 p.m. in Kuala Lumpur tomorrow. The likely discussion tomorrow may echo debates across the Asia-Pacific region, which has led global growth and where policymakers have enacted the steepest increases in borrowing costs. While India, South Korea, and Thailand opted to raise their key rates last month, and China and the Philippines asked lenders to let aside more cash as reserves instead. The rates call in 50-50, said Matthew Sarcosta, an economist at Moody's Analytics in Sydney. Bank Negara Malaysia will be mulling global worries against domestic inflation pressures. European finance ministers have authorized an 8.7 billion euro, or about $12.6 billion loan payout to Greece by mid-July, pulling the country back from the brink of default and gaining time to hammer out a formula for ending the debt crisis. Economic growth in the U.S. slowed to a 1.9% annual pace in the first quarter from 3.1% in the previous 3 months, and the unemployment rate has climbed back above 9%.